Hello and welcome, my name is Clayton, and today we are going to be repasting and repadding my 2080 Ti, which is an ASUS ROG Strix. I bought this card about 5 years ago, and I suspect it had a hard life before I owned it. I've been thinking about repasting it, but it hasn't really been fully necessary until the last couple of years. After a couple of years of hard abuse and upgrading my monitor to a larger monitor, my 2080 Ti started getting hotter and the fans started oscillating. I looked at the fans and it looked like one was kind of lagging behind and maybe there was a bearing issue, so I went ahead and I replaced all 3 fans, which was fairly simple to do. This solved the problem for like maybe a couple of weeks, and then my fan intermittent problem came back. My fan speed would ramp up for like 20 seconds and then it would come down and then it would go back up, and it was super annoying. Definitely very distracting for recording videos. It would be like I believe it was just constantly maxing out, and it was like right on the edge of the fan curve where it's ramping up and down. So I decided to repaste the GPU and repad it to see if that would give us some better thermal headroom. I did measure the temperatures before, and my hotspot would get as high as 109 degrees Celsius during gaming sessions, which would usually include a main game on my monitor, having RuneScape open, and maybe even recording. 109 degrees Celsius is very hot. The GPU temperature was around 70 degrees Celsius, which is really a lot better. And so apparently that big gap between that hotspot as well as the high temperature for the GPU kind of indicates an issue with the seal of the GPU die, which generally means repasting and repadding. So that's what we're going to do today, and we're going to see if we can get some thermal performance back. Alright, I am about to run the superposition benchmark. I have HW info, hardware info, and my notes app, and we have our GPU right here, of course. I'm kind of curious to see how much the fans ramp up. We're going to go and give it a run, and this is going to be my baseline test. All I really care about is my hotspot temperature, my average GPU temperature, and the benchmark score. But yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So really this just kind of more or less renders a video game scene, and it just stress tests the computer. So we are heating up. My hotspot has already hit 96 degrees Celsius, which is very hot. Alright, step number 1, we're gonna grab the computer. Here it is. Alright, I think we're ready. I'm grounded with the anti-static wrist strap, whatever, which I know no one really uses or cares about. Oh boy, it is super dusty in here. Let's take a peek at all that dust. I guess I'll just start by gently unplugging it. I was gonna keep my sunglasses on my head as a headband. Oh yeah, pulls right out. No problemo. Alright, she's out. So we'll go ahead and set her down there. You can take a look under here, make sure everything's looking cool. Dustier than I would like. It's looking pretty clean. So bam. Now comes the scary part. Taking the son of a gun apart. Do I know what I'm doing here? Not really. Oh, I think we have to take the fans off first, which I have in fact already done at some point. Definitely don't want to lose any hardware here. Oh dang it. I think I made this mistake last time. I don't think I have to take that shroud piece off. Well, I'm starting to remember now. I have a magnetized tip on this pocket screwdriver that definitely helps a lot. Let's be playing Operation. Uh-oh. Okay, so we have that whole little group of screws. I really feel like I should have a little hardware bin. Okay, did I need to do that? I don't think I needed to do that. Alright, I've already taken off several things that I don't think I needed to. I don't remember doing this. I probably don't even have to do this at all. Yeah, I don't think I really needed to remove this actually. It's a bit annoying. But it does give me an opportunity kind of clean it out and wipe it up a little bit. Okay, well, I don't know why I have struggled so much with that. I guess we'll have to take this off. Okay, so they're all the same except this little one. Ooh, that's very small. I'm actually gonna have to swap bits here. Okay, so that plate is off, which I think holds the two ends together. I'm scared. And I think it's just these, I guess. They're like spring-loaded. It feels so wrong. I'm gonna actually try and take them off in a pattern. Probably should have started on the inside. That one doesn't have a spring. Okay. Does it come apart now? Okay. Oh my god. It looks horrifically dry. Holy fuck. Oh my god, that paste is so bad. Good god. Alright, so now we're open. Scary part's done. Kind of. A lot of dust buildup on the inside. That's not a good thing. So now that these two are apart, we're going to repaste this. Replace this thermal pad. We have to remove this plastic bracket, which is a lot easier than it might look. It's very obvious. There's just a bunch of screws here, and we can get that off. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that before I go grab my digital calipers. I think I'll repaste it when this bracket is off, because I think it'll make it easier. There's actually Loctite on all of these little screws. Wild. Okay, this is actually like a pretty nice heavy-duty feeling plastic. And on the underside is where our other thermal pads lie. Kind of wondering if these are... Oh my god, they're just crumbling apart. Which is what we expected. I don't really think you have to worry too much about the orientation of a lot of this stuff. It's pretty obviously only one way. Alright, I'm going to use this shop cloth. I think this is probably not the best thing to use because it's probably really abrasive, but I think it's tough enough so that it's not going to like leave any little fragments. I'm sure it will, but so I'm just going to gently wipe it away, clean her all up. Ugh. Look how sad it is. Definitely needs some help, don't you there, guy? Very, very gently scrape away some of this paste here. Ever so gently. Try and just get some of that crud out of there. Damn, there is some straight up like fossilized bits on there. I think it was just some stubborn paste. Yes, it was. Well, I'm glad I got that off. Now we see if we can measure these guys. Okay, so one tactic that I'm really just doing is placing my pad directly next to it and measuring it up like that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and venture and say this is the 1mm, which I'm guessing is going to be all of these. And let's compare it to the other one to make sure we're not just... And then I'm going to go ahead and venture a guess and say this is my 1.5. Yep. Alright. Not the best cut there, actually. using the old material to help me guide the new. So we get a nice cut. And this other teeny guy, which is kind of odd. Before I get carried away and start putting all these pads on, we got to make sure to do the other side of the thermal paste contact. I mentioned earlier I can straight up see heat spots on this thing, so like that's not good, dude. Well, looks perfect now. So now I'm going to stick on all the thermal pads. Keep in mind when pressing down on this, it's plastic. Don't want to shatter that shit. Okie dokie. Surfaces look very, very good. I'm going to go ahead and get my thermal grizzly out. What the hell, it's pink? Bro, it's pink. That's so crazy. Oh, this stuff is so tacky. I think it's already starting to get tacky, which is fucking crazy. Maybe I should have had this on. I gotta take off the plastic. Now I'm panicking. Okay, be very careful when we're doing these screws. Obviously, we don't want to drop one onto our paste. That would be ridiculous. I feel like this paste is drying fast, and I'm kind of panicking to get this thing back together real quick. Okay, very cool. Remove this bit of plastic from this one. I don't know, we kind of had to wiggle that around a lot. Making me a little nervous for sure. Wait, why am I having such trouble with this? I don't know if there's a certain amount of time that you're supposed to wait after repasting before firing it up. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and Google. see if we royally fucked anything up. I see lights on the GPU. She's lighting up. It's a pretty long boot. There it is. We have an image. We have image. Wow, it's very cold right now. It's 33 degrees Celsius, which is very, very cold. But that is just because our system is just now turning on, just booting. Hotspot is at 47. So I'm going to go ahead and let this idle for like 10 minutes. GPU hotspot is sitting at 77.8978 degrees. And climbing. So yeah, slight gain basically, which I don't really care about. I just want the fans to stop going nuts. And I think the delta, the difference between the GPU temp and the GPU hotspot is a lot less. Alright, so we did the Unigine benchmark, which was the Heaven benchmark, I believe, and we got about a 2.2% improvement, but really what that looks like is the difference between 109 degrees Celsius hotspot to now the highest I've seen is like 85 degrees Celsius. So we are talking about something like a 25 degree change, which is pretty incredible. That is a huge amount. And my GPU high went from something like 73-ish degrees to something like 62-ish, which is also a really big improvement, and that is really a massive difference. It has in fact completely solved my fans ramping up and down. The computer in general is running much quieter as those fans aren't working so hard to try and keep it cool, and everything is a lot better. Now granted, this thing ran on the hot side for something like 5 years, so it's very possible that this thing doesn't have too much life left, and I should probably seriously consider upgrading in the future. I've also thought about overclocking the GPU, which I think would also degrade its life quite a bit, but it could be something that I could get a little bit extra performance out of, but I just don't know if it's really going to be worth it. I was definitely seeing some stuttering and all kinds of GPU issues, and frankly it was just not in good shape. It was definitely running hot, and the GPU was in such bad shape to the point where the actual quality of my video recordings in OBS was degrading without changing any settings, which is kind of nuts because my recording quality just kept looking worse and worse, and it's like, what is going on? And I think it was bumping up against the thermal headroom of the GPU, I think. But generally speaking, the computer's running a lot better, no more intermittent fan speed issues, and of course, the temperatures are much lower and games are genuinely noticeably smoother. So honestly, I'm really happy with the results here, and if you want to do the same and you want to buy any of the stuff that I used, go ahead and check out the links in the descriptions. They are affiliate links, but I definitely would recommend the Thermal Grizzly. I've used that, I think, on my CPU and now my GPU, and it seems to have made a very big difference. So hopefully you kind of at least got a good idea of what it takes to take apart a 2080 Ti and go back together. It is fairly intimidating, but it's really not that complicated. The biggest confusing thing are the pads, but really all you have to do is just measure the pads, and I did let you know kind of what the size of those pads are. The thickness is absolutely crucial, and there are two different thicknesses on this particular GPU, which we kind of went over in the video, but that's definitely important to pay attention to. But hopefully you kind of learned something, or at least saw the process of this, and it was kind of interesting. But the results are very, very impressive. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Don't stop tinkering, guys. I just saved myself like literally $1,000 by doing this. So, I'll see you later.